Enviro radicals in charge. I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.Media. It's becoming clear that Canada did not really elect a Liberal government on October 19th. We elected a climate change government. Heck, we may as well have elected the World Wildlife Fund to run the country. And actually, we kind of did. Even though Trudeau played up the environment in general terms, it wasn't the central part of his campaign. That was all about the middle class. Well, now his ministerial mandate letters are out, telling cabinet ministers what they're supposed to do, and they're all about the middle class and climate change. Every single letter mentions climate change. Immigration? Yep, it's in there. National defense? Yep, it's there. Even national revenue, the revenue minister. You know, when I said, we kind of elected the World Wildlife Fund to run the government, well, if you've been paying attention, then you know what I mean. Gerald Butts, Trudeau's principal secretary, used to head up the World Wildlife Fund Canada, and he was very clear in saying this country needs to move towards a zero carbon economy.
Truth be told, we don't think there ought to be a carbon-based energy industry by the middle of this century. That's our policy in Canada, and it's our policy all over the world.
Zero carbon, that means no oil, no gas, not a single luxury, as they used to say on Gilligan's Island. Well, now the Liberals are in power, but still has the prince's ear, and that is evident as we read these mandate letters to the ministers. While every minister is told to deal with climate change, some have more duties than others. The letter to Catherine McKenna, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, states, "Your key priority will be to ensure that our government provides national leadership to reduce emissions, combat climate change, and price carbon." She is to put a price on carbon. Now, don't ask what. Liberals are not about telling you these sorts of details. Quizzed about Canada's emission targets on Friday, McKenna, who's about to head off to the Paris climate talks and commit the country to who knows what, refused to say what our targets would be.
The idea is getting an international framework. That's really important. While emissions, countries' emission targets are part of that, I mean, what we're really trying to do is have a framework so we figure out how we're going to move forward in terms of tackling climate change, reducing emissions.
Translation, we're going to commit to lots, but don't ask for details, like targets or a price on carbon. Elsewhere in her mandate letter, it states, "In partnership with provinces and territories, establish national emissions reduction targets, ensuring that the provinces and territories have targeted federal funding and the flexibility to design their own policies to meet these commitments, including their own carbon pricing policies." So hold on here. She is to price carbon federally, fund provincial programs, and help the provinces set up their own carbon pricing. This is going to get very expensive, folks. Very, very expensive. McKenna's letter, unfortunately, isn't the only one that should cause concern. The letter that Trudeau sent to carbon tax proponent and Minister of Natural Resources, James Gordon Carr, may as well have said, make sure all the stuff we used to take out of the ground and sell stays in the ground. Here's one line that should worry anyone that wants a vibrant energy industry in Canada. Trudeau tells Carr to, quote, "modernize the National Energy Board to ensure that its composition reflects regional views and has sufficient expertise in fields such as environmental science, community development, and Indigenous traditional knowledge." Those voices, environmentalist, local views, and yes, even Aboriginal voices and views, they're already represented at those hearings. But Trudeau is signaling to Carr to stack the board and make sure that projects just don't go ahead. Remember, before the Harper government modernized the Energy Board, put in time limits on hearings, environmental activists would delay projects by signing people up by the thousands, all saying the same thing. But it was about delaying the projects, and Trudeau's just told Carr to do that. Another letter is much more blatant. Transport Minister Mark Garneau has been told, in essence, kill off the Northern Gateway pipeline that would take Canadian oil to Asian markets. The letter to Garneau states, formalize a moratorium on crude oil tanker traffic on British Columbia's north coast, working in collaboration with the Minister of Fisheries, Oceans, and Canadian Coast Guard, the Minister of Natural Resources, and the Minister of Environment and Climate Change to develop an approach. Elections have consequences, people. The consequences to Canadians of electing before vetting Justin Trudeau and his Liberals is that we now have a Prime Minister's office run by environmental radicals that will take steps to move towards their agenda, even if it means hurting the economy, throwing regular Canadians out of work, and putting our natural resources, our industries, at a disadvantage compared to our competitors. The Liberals promised real change. Well, on this front, they're delivering, but I really wish they wouldn't.